I think law enforcement are on the verge of making an arrest. These charts were so shocking to me.
Thanks for joining us, Grace. And we're excited to see not only the chart for the Snapchat murders, but also what you have to say about the eclipse and how it might affect what's coming up potentially for this case.
Well, I really think that the eclipse is going to shake this case up. Eclipses cause change. This one is going to be extremely powerful in Delphi. And you can see right at the AC, which is in Virgo, the point of fortune is right on the ascendant, but also an asteroid that is de-arrest, and it shows up when people get arrested.
From the killer to Uranus. With this trine to the ascendant, it shows me that the victims were able to get video. And that video would be seen by everyone because it's on the MC. And it would be left behind with K2 or with South Node there. If this is the killer, he's so close to that video, he would be in the news. Mm-hmm. And it's a bridge, ninth is bridge. So it would be like
outdoors.
Bridge guy is in the news and he's hidden, but he's on camera.
I studied a practice called Arabic parts, and this is formulas that give us areas, not a specific place, but areas where things are potential to happen. So here we see that the place of murder is right in here. And this is the place of an Arabic part called known and revered by men. I believe that this shows us that this is going to be a really big arrest and make somebody really famous from it. This eclipse is in Taurus and it's at 10 Taurus. The ninth house is the courts. So I thought that was interesting. And then I find it very interesting that Mars in Pisces, so possibly, and it's exactly opposite de-arrest and the point of fortune. So that's another sign to me that Delphi police might be ready to make an arrest in this case.
It certainly looks like they're going to have some news around it, Mars, which you could look at as police, to the ninth house, where there's this big press event. It's shocking because you've got Uranus there. It involves friends, which or young people, which is Abby and Libby right here. Mm-hmm. And of course you have Libby there, and then Anthony, which you could say they're talking about the online profile, Anthony Shotz. And it's like you said, it's going to make such a big impact because of Moon there, which is fame. So with this stellium, it is a huge amount of energy. The later degrees of Taurus, where you have North Node, then you get into some pretty nasty degrees, right on Virgo, is probably the strongest thing in this chart.
Right. And it's exactly opposite Mars, who's in the 7th house of the perp. I mean, and he is exactly on the descendant. This is crazy.
It's crazy, but I'm seeing two things here. I'm seeing how there's that opposition there. And I know that you explained that to some extent, but doesn't it, with this square here, couldn't it mean that there's going to be some kind of delay or a failure? Black Moon Lilith here, it's like an impossible fixed star. It's like if you wanted to see the truth, you couldn't. And it's so close to Tony right there. So
again, that Anthony Shotz.
Yeah, Anthony Shotz, right. Libby is going to be mostly in the news. Look at that. And she was the one who was communicating with Anthony Shotz. That's amazing.
Persephone was kidnapped by Hades and taken to the underworld. That asteroid represents kidnappings, and they were kidnapped for a short period of time when he took them from the bridge.
I just see a person of authority. I've always felt that way. And as you mentioned earlier, it could just be that the person was acting as an officer. And that's, like I said, how he managed to get them to do what he said. But in this chart, I have a few charts from the Golden State Killer.
My grandmother lived in Stockton for years and years and years. She was petrified of the East Area Rapist. That's what they called him back then. She was petrified. She had so many locks, and she just barricaded all her windows. She was not taking any chances. I'll tell you, she was very frightened of him.
Mars is like the neighborhood policeman. And he's in disguise again with that sextile to Neptune. You're always going to have Mars in these charts. So they're not all going to be police officers. But it is interesting to see how here's a kite, and the MC played a big part in these charts. He's in the neighborhood. He's patrolling the neighborhood. But 18 right there conjunct Mars. So the person's profession was a policeman, and in the 12th he's in disguise. So another time when you have the Neptunian energy with Mars, and here again there's another chart of his where he approached the crime scene in a police car. So Mars again played out here in Gemini.
If we really want to know how this is going to affect the case, a good thing to look at is this chart placed over the Snapchat chart. On the ascendant, you can see that the place of boldness, violence, and murder, the Arabic part of the place. Okay. And it was right on, just dead on the ascendant. The place of boldness, violence, and murder. He was bold. Yes. That was bold what he did. So that shows us this chart is like minutes before they were killed or attacked. And then right here at the destiny point at 3 Virgo, and we're talking about that Virgo energy, was the year feared for death. So it was as if this was the destiny of the girls. On the IC was the Arabic part of violence. Then in Jupiter, in the 5th house, was the place of murder, right? And then in the 8th house, we see captivity right around Abby. And then we have the Arabic part of death in the 11th house there around Aries 21, which is gun, which is
kidding.
head wounds, which is a lot of blood.
How
So
many-
this is the eclipse chart over the Snapchat chart. So the most amazing thing to me about this chart is the AC of the chart that we've just been talking about. All of that energy, we couldn't decide whether it was good or bad. That is conjunct the IC, or the end of the matter, of the Snapchat chart. So is an arrest the end of the matter? Could be. Then if you look over here, you can see Delphi and Saturn. They're in the end of the matter of the eclipse chart. And they're opposite Persephone and Tony, which is Tony Shotz. That could indicate, that they're stopping him, that it's ending. Then across from that, we see Neptune on the IC, which was in the crime, is now conjunct Mars of the DC. So that kind of tells me that in the news, the perp is, and possibly
invisible
others with him, people that helped him. I'm sure he was alone, but somebody might have helped him. It's right there, on the DC of the 7th house of if you look in the 8th house, or the 8th house of the eclipse, we've got Chiron also, and it's in the 10th house of the Snapchat chart. So I think maybe we are going to hear about some mistakes. That makes sense. Maybe a little, we messed up. I heard a rumor that they had interviewed these guys 2 years ago.
There you go.
And never put it together.
And you really strongly think that they're good suspects. The only problem I have is I feel like they neither look like the suspect.
If you see up here in the 8th house of death, you can see Mercury, Abby in the point of fortune, right? And they're all conjunct Kegan right there, who is in the 5th house of fun. So he was the one talking. They were talking to Kegan.
Yes.
And then I think Kegan talked to Tony. He was hiding a gun, and maybe a knife, and he had, and he was going like this. And then after they turned the video away from him, because we don't actually see him say go down the hill. And Pluto is in the 8th house, right there with Tony in eclipse. Big transformation for him. He's gonna be caught. I mean, he's just gonna be caught. That's all there is to it. But
well, thank you again, as always, Grace, for your insight, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.